Hey, Boker Tov. Today's daf is Daf Nun, number 50. As we begin the fifth parak, the famous parak called Rabbi Gamliel, we learned for a four shlema for Yosef Asriel ben Chaim Michal and Elazar ben Reuma. Now, let's understand something we've discussed before, but as a preamble, two things, or maybe more. But the first thing is that this Mishnah goes like a Bekiva. Yesterday we discussed, you okay?
When I'm sitting there, the air blows right.
Oh, okay, fine. Okay. So yesterday, we mentioned yesterday there was a machlokas, what makes a mamzer, right? In an illicit situation, what makes a mamzer? Does it make is a mamzer made from even chayve lavan? That was a Bekiva's shita, and according to who was it? Was not Rabbi Sheva. According to Rav Simoy. Even any kind of chayve lavan, not just chayve lavan that come from incest, makes a mamzer. The shita that we hold is Shimon HaTemani, that only if it's a chiv kores or worse, like chiv Mrs. Bezin. Rabbi Yeshua said only chiv Mrs. Bezin makes a mamzer, nothing less. But according to Rabbi Kiva, any chayve lavan makes a mamzer, unless we said it's a kohen gadol to an amana, because there you may, or a kohen to a grusha, because that makes a halal, not a mamzer. But otherwise, all chayve lavan, like machzir grushas mishanises, or a goy, let's say from Ammon marrying the Israelis, that would make a mamzer according to Rabbi Kiva. And our Mishnah, although it's not mentioned in the Mishnah clearly, we're going to see goes like Rabbi Kiva. That's the first thing to mention. The second thing is, what's the difference? What are the things that you could do when a case of Yibam arises? What happens? Reuven was married to Leah. Now we're not talking about sisters here. Leah has the sisters. She might have another co-wife. We'll call her Sarah, Leah and Sarah. But her husband Reuben died and left a brother or two, Shimon and Levi. Right? What are the options for Shimon and Levi? Either do Yibam or do Chalitza. Either Yibam or Chalitza ends the Zika. During the time that Reuven dies, until one of his brothers performs some act, there's called a Zika. We hold yesh zika or ain't zika, depending on how much is that? Is it like a partial kedushin or not? But there's definitely a bond there, right? He has to do something, and she's not allowed to get remarried to somebody else until he does something. What are the two somethings? Pardon?
Like in limbo.
In limbo. She's in limbo. She's in limbo, but she's like partially married to him. It's like a part. There's a zika. There's a bond there. What is he supposed to do? The Torah says only two things: either do Yibam or Chalitza. Yibam or Chalitza. You don't have an option for anything else. Yibam or Chalitza. Either one removes the Zika. If he marries her, it's his full wife. In fact, if he's a Yisrael, he's not a Kohen. If he's a Yisrael or a Levi, he can divorce her and remarry her because he's his full wife now. That's if he does Yibam. If he does Chalitza, it's it. It's over. You don't marry her ever again, and that's it. If you do chalitza and then you marry her afterwards, according to the Rabbanan, you're over on a lav, you need a get. According to Rabbi Kiva that we learned yesterday, chayv lav makes a mamzer, kedushin's not chal. It wouldn't be chal. And this mission is going to go like Rabbi Kiva. So again, Minatori do either chalitza or even. Comes along the rabbis, and the rabbis said, well, you know what? Rather than, how does he even perform? By consummating the marriage, having beer with her. You know what? Do kedushin first. Make a kedushin like everybody else gets married, right? Like 99.999999% of everybody else who takes a wife, it's not via yibam, it's a regular marriage. Do kedushin with her too. Give her a star or give her money, a ring, whatever, and marry her. Okay, that's called mimer. Mimer, what does mimer do? Does it kedushin? Is it's there Minatorah? There's no, it doesn't do anything. There's no kedushin.
Strengthens the zika.
Oh, very good. So maybe it strengthens the zika. How much does it take away? But does it do like bia where there's no more zika? You married now or not? It's a partial, right? Same thing. Many people when they, let's say they want to get rid of her, they say, well, you get rid of her with a get. Isn't that the way you get rid of women? So let's say he gives her a get. Let's say Shimon gives Leah a get, or Sarah, whatever, gives her a get. Does that do anything? Yeah, it does. The rabbi said it does. So people shouldn't confuse get with chalitza. Might think, oh, get doesn't do anything else. Get does enough that at least midrabanan, it means that he's rejected her. Now you still need chalitza. Still need chalitza because chalitza is the only way in Torah to get to. Oh, very good, because he's partially married to her. He's got the bond there, and the rabbi said that. True, Torah, that doesn't get rid of the bond like chalitza does. The bond is only removed either by chalitza, where it means that they're totally gone now, and as chalitza, by the way, he would now be forbidden to marry her sisters or her mother, right? Because it's like they were married. What about if he gives her a get? If he gives her a get, also that has that effect too, that he can't marry her relatives. However, you still need chalitza. So why does get work at all? Because get works in general. We're afraid if you say the get won't work, people will think it won't work in general, or chalitza won't work. We'll see in the Gemara. We'll talk about that. Okay. Rav Gamliel says like this. Now that we understand that, what about if there's two? What about if there's two Yavamas? Let's say one Yavam Shimon and there's two Yavamas, Leah and Sarah, and he gives both of them a get. Does the second get do anything? If he gives one a get, so okay, that means he can't do Yivam anymore because the rabbi said once you rejected her, you can't marry her anymore, right? But does it do anything if he gives the second one a get too? He says, okay, there's two of them, I'll give them each a get. I'm running back to home, I'll give them each a get. Does the second get do anything? Would it make him forbidden on her family? So Gamliel says in the Mishnah, Ein get acher get. V'lo maimer acher maimer. If these things don't do anything. Now we'll see in the Gemara tomorrow, the Gemara will explain. Gamliel's not sure. Does a get accomplish anything or not? Well, either it does or it doesn't. But if it does, the second one is not necessary. It's not going to do anything. In other words, the second one doesn't accomplish anything. She's not divorced. It doesn't mean that she's forbidden to a Kohen. The first one would make her forbidden to a Kohen, even though you're not supposed to give a get to a woman like that, but there is a bond. It's not like you give a get to a woman in the street. A man does, hey, there's a lady over there, here's a get. What's your name? Leah, here's a get. Does that make her puzzle to a Kohen? No, the get doesn't mean anything. There's no bond, there's no marriage. But in this case, if there's a Yavam and he gives her a get, she would be forbidden to marry a Kohen and he wouldn't be allowed to marry her relatives. What about if he gives them both a get? So Gamliel says there's no get after a get. Why? Because if the first one's good, the second one has no meaning. And if the first one has no meaning, the second one has no meaning. Again, it's pardon? Two women. Reuben was married to two wives. It's not sisters. And he decides to give a get, and Shimon only has to really give chalitza or even to one of them, right? That's the rule. You give chalitza to the other. But he decided to give a get to both of them. So he says, you know what? That second get doesn't do anything. Because if the first one did something, then the second one has no meaning. Because once you get rid of one, you don't need the other one, right? And if the first one doesn't do anything, because it's only drabanan, midaraisa, the get doesn't do anything for a yavama, so the second one for sure is no good. So there's no get below bi'ila. Once you make it be, let's say he performs B on one of them, that means he consummated the marriage and he performed yibam. So let's say he does it on the second one. So the second one is it's also to do with Teishas Achshlav Makam Mitzvah. The machlokas whether there's chorus or not. The machlokas Rav Yochanan Rav Shlokish back in Daf Yud. But the second one certainly doesn't do anything. Okay, it's also for him to do. It's znus, but it doesn't accomplish anything. Below chalitza. Once he gives chalitza to one, what's the rule if he gives chalitza to one? He can't marry her family, etc. And right, she's allowed to get remarried. He can't marry her family. He can't marry her sisters, etc. Her mother. Then he gives a chalitza to the second one. That also doesn't mean because once he gives chalitza, minat Torah, the bond is gone. The Chacham says no. Yesh gerach yesh mamar chamaimer. There is a get after a get and a mamar chamam. Why? Not because Rav Gamliel's sheet, as we'll see tomorrow, is he's not sure either get works or mamar works or it doesn't work. So if it works, the second one doesn't work, and if it doesn't work, the second one for sure doesn't work. But Chacham say no, it works partially. It does something. It sort of removes it. You know, there's a yavama. Let's say a person who's married has 100% bond to his wife. So if he dies and left no children, Leah is 50% bonded to Shimon. And the get accomplishes it that it's only 25% bonded. It removes it somewhat. So the rabbis say if you give a get to one and then get to the other, yes, you know what? Yesh get acher get, and it accomplishes something. Rashi says that it doesn't push it off entirely. Therefore, there's still a partial zika there. There's a partial bond. You still need chalitza, of course, so there is a partial bond. So therefore, it helps on the second one too. And if he gives a get to both, he can't marry the relatives of either one. Remember, now we're talking about Leah and Sarah, not sisters. They're just two wives of Reuben. Reuben died with no children, married to two wives, no children. And both Leah and Sarah fell to Shimon. And Shimon gave them each a get. Shimon cannot marry either one of them now. Either one of their relatives, Usher. And presumably they cannot marry a Kohen either. The get is good on both. That's what the rabbi said. Yesh get because that's Minatorah. The Torah says if you perform bia on the Yavama, that's it. The marriage is consummated, and that's it. She's your full wife. You don't give her chalitza now. Anything else done subsequently wouldn't do anything. You're married to her now. Either give her a get if you want to get rid of her, like any other wife, and you could even remarry her subsequently. So, but if you do another bia, if you did beila on Leah and then you did beila on Sarah, that would be forbidden and it wouldn't accomplish anything. So that's the machlokes between Malil and the Chachamim. They both agree about there's no bia after the first bia. Once you start with chalitza or bia, the Christians, what did you start with? If you started with chalitza or bia, that's what you're supposed to do. Even right, you do chalitza or bia, or even if you did that, that's it. You don't do anything else after this, as we'll see. Malil says. Same thing for get after a get in Maimer Chamamer. Because Rabbi Gamliel is not sure what get in Maimer accomplishes, if it accomplishes something or not. Either way, one or the other. The Chachamim say no. Each of them, the get and the Maimer, each accomplish. The get removes some of the zika, and the Maimer makes some of the zika stronger, but it's not enough. It doesn't complete it. So therefore, a second Maimer does accomplish something. And as we'll see, you'll need a get from both. If you hold ein Maimer acher Maimer. So if he gave Maimer, which is Kedushin Rabbanan, to Leah and Sarah, according to Malil, you don't need a get. Sarah doesn't need a get. Now the second one didn't accomplish anything. But according to the Rabbanan, it would accomplish something. You need to get from both, and we're going to describe that now. Ketzad. Now we're going to give examples of now we're going back to discuss one Yavam, Shimon and Leah, like we've been discussing. Reuben died, no children. There's Shimon and Leah. And what does Shimon do with Leah? And we're going to describe 4 ways of, he does more than one thing. The simple thing would be just do chalitza or do yivmot and end it, right? But let's say he didn't do it that way. And the Gemara is going to give like 4 orders, starting with Maimer, then get, then chalitza, and then bia. Meaning, if he started with each one of those, if he starts with Maimer, if he starts with get, starts with chalitza, and starts with bia. Let's see. Ketzad. Osamar Bimto. Shimon did Maimer to Leah. And then he didn't want her anymore. He decided he changed his mind. What does he have to give her? So v'nasna get. Then he gave her a get. So that gets rid of the Maimer. Again, Midrabanan, Maimer is a Kedusha Rabbanan. You still need chalitza. Why? Because Minatorah, there's a bond there. What does the Torah say? When Reuven dies, you have to either give Yibam or chalitza. You gave her Maimer. Okay, that's a good thing to do. Give her Maimer and then marry her. No, you gave her a get. Now you still need chalitza. Also by Maimer, right? Oh, let's say he started again. He started with Maimer. We're taking an order. Maimer, if he started with Maimer, or started with get, started with chalitza, started with bia. So here we're giving cases where he started with Maimer. He started with Maimer and then he gave her a get. You still need chalitza. Also by Maimer v'chalitza. Let's say he gave her Maimer and chalitza. So the chalitza gets rid of the bond minatorah, but stricha and a get. You still need to get for the Maimer because Maimer is a kedushin rabbanan, and for the kedushin rabbanan you need to get to rabbanan. So you still need to get. Also, if you start with Maimer Ubal, that's where you're supposed to do it. The Torah says just take her, consummate it. The rabbi said give her Maimer first and then do the B. Okay, that's if he started with Maimer. Let's say he started with a get. The first thing he did, why would he give her a get? Just give her chalitza, right? If you look, the answer is not everybody knows Yevamos, right? Not everybody has learned this, right? So he figured, okay, I'll give her a get, everybody, all my friends got divorced with a get. I want to give a get too, right? And I gave it Lishma, and I wrote the name. I had it all written out properly, or at least I wanted to proceed it that way, Nasan get. Also, there's another thing too. You might think because in those days the get was given Baal Korchach before the Shemen Gershom. So maybe a get says I'll get rid of her. Chalitza, I got to bring her to court and all that. Maybe let me get rid of her now with a get. Whatever his reasons were. He started with a get. Reuben died. Shimon gave her a get. And then he did Maimer. Then he changed his mind. He did Maimer. So what is it? He needs tzricha get b'chalitza. Why do you need a get now? Because you need a get after the Maimer. If you did another kedushin, you need a get. So he did Maimer. You need a get, and you still need chalitza because he never gave a chalitza yet. Nasan get. Let's say he started with a get ubal, and then he gave her bia afterwards. Tzricha get b'chalitza. You gave her a get. He's not supposed to marry her anymore. You say, what do you mean? Get's only drabanan? Yeah, but drabanan. Once you rejected her, kivin shalabana shuv lo yivna. Right? Like what if you said once you did chalitza, you can't. Here also, once you give her a get, you've shown you don't want her. You're not supposed to give her bia now. give her get. What you should do is if you started with a get and then somebody should tell you have to give chalitza. But he did bia afterwards. Tzricha get. You need a get for the bia, and you still need a chalitza. Nasa get b'chalatz. Let's say he gave her a get and he gave her chalitza. Oh, that's good, right? He gave her a get, which is he shouldn't have done that. But let's say he did it for whatever reason. He gave her the get. And then he gave her chalitza. Okay, enach chalitza kum. That's it. Afterwards, nothing else works. Meaning, enach chalitza kum means nothing else happens afterwards. Whatever he does afterwards is meaningless. Meaning, he's not supposed to. We're going contra Bekiva that if you give her chalitza and then you marry her, that makes a mamzer because it's Israel. Like lo yivnet daisachav kiven shabbat shlo yitzalav. So enach chalitza not does many. So if he gave chalitza, let's say here we're talking about where there's one wife, but whatever it means is that after you give chalitza, whatever you did afterwards is it's wrong and it doesn't accomplish anything. That's his point. Let's say he started with chalitza, vasa b'mayim and doesn't get a ball. Let's say he started with chalitza, then there's nothing to follow. You started with chalitza, you're supposed to do. What are you supposed to do? What is Shimon supposed to do? Either chalitza or yibam, right? So if you started with chalitza, that's it. It's over. It's over. If he gave a chalitza and then he did maimer, right? No, it wouldn't help. Why wouldn't help? Or nasan get a ball, it wouldn't help. Why? Because we're going like Rabbi Kiva. Nothing helps. After chalitza, it's an Israelav. According to Rabbi Kiva, Israelav, kedusha is not chal. It would be a mamzer. So it would produce a mamzer. So anything after chalitza is meaningless. But it still did a sin. If he gave her b, it's a sin. But it doesn't accomplish anything. Doesn't get a ball. Oh, or he started with bia. In other words, if you started with the right thing that you're supposed to do, Menat Torah, you either started with chalitza or you started with bia, then nothing else counts afterwards. Again, chalatz, v'asa maimer, doesn't get a ball. Oh, or he started with bia, v'asa maimer, doesn't get the chalatz. Einach chalitza klum. And Rashi says it means not only after the chalitza klum, it also means after the bia. Because if you started the right way, if you did things the right way, it's a good life rule in general. Do things the right way, you don't have to fix it later on, right? So again, if you started with chalitza, that's it. You gave her chalitza. That's it. You're not supposed to marry her anymore, right? You're not supposed to marry the tzara, right? The tzara is not supposed to marry, and it's in the Stralav, Kores, etc. Right? Or it's in the Stralav, it would make a mamzer, and Kedusha wouldn't be chal. So you started with chalitza, and then you gave the same woman maimer, or you gave her a get. That doesn't do anything. It doesn't accomplish anything. It's a sin, in fact, in bia. Or if you started with bia, she's your wife now. There's no more zika. It's gone, right? And then you did maimer. What does that do? Nothing. You're already married to her. Nasan get. If you gave her a get for the bia, okay, so then she's divorced. Meaning it doesn't accomplish anything in terms of the zika that we've been discussing. That's all. One person married to there was one yavam and one yavam, Shimon and Leah. Now the Mishnah goes on and on the days. Whether it's one yavam to one yavam, Shimon and Leah, or whether there's two women there to one yavam. And now he's going to explain. Now we're going to explain it according to the Chachamim. What machlokes we have in the Mishnah? Gamliel said, ain't get achaget, because he says either get works or mime works or it doesn't. So the second one wouldn't have any effect. If it doesn't work, the second one doesn't work. And if it does work, the second one doesn't work. The Chum weren't sure. So the Chum say, yesh get achaget, yesh maimer chamaimer. So if you give a get the two co-wives, there are two co-wives, Leah and Sarah, and you gave a get to both, you would be forbidden from marrying both of their relatives. They're not related themselves, they're just co-wives. And they would presumably be also to marry, each of them would be also to marry a Kohen. Because yesh get a Kohen Chacham and yesh maimer acher maimer. Because maimer doesn't finish the zika. It's not like bia. If you started off with bia, you consummated the marriage. That's it. You're married to her. You're fully married. There's no more zika. Now you're a regular husband and wife. Divorce her, marry her again, do whatever you want. But there's no more zika. But maimer doesn't do that. Maimer only works partially. So he explains now. How does it work with one yavam and two yavamas? There's Shimon, and he has Leah and Sarah. Kesar. Also, maimer b'zu. Now we're going to go with the same order. We're going to start, if you start with maimer, if you start with get, you start with chalitza, or you start with bia. Kesar. Also, maimer b'zu, maimer zu. He made maimer to both. Because again, according to the Rabbanan, and Rashi says right the fourth line on the top of the page, Rabbanan diesh maimer acher maimer. The avumila, you can't be miyabmer. Why? Because the heichlever, if you're going to be by, you can't be miyabm both of them. It's shnei batim. You can't be miyabm two wives, right? It's only one or the other. Bilachado, since the other one is connected, it's like bonus shnei batim. Since he has mimer with one, he can't marry the other one either. So if he did mimer on both, again, this is complicated these cases. But if he did it this way, if he did mimer to both, he thought he's doing a good thing. Kate said, "Also mimer zu." Figures I'll choose which one later on. No, and you still need a get for each mimer, and you still need chalitza. Because minat Torah, the only way to finish off to remove the zika is either to do yibam or chalitza. No, chalitza to one. If you did chalitza to one, all you need. Here you did mimer in both, so you need a get for both. But chalitza takes away the zika. Chalitza from you never need chalitza twice. You never need chalitza twice. You need chalitza, that's it. Mimer, again, he started with mimer bazu beget lazu. He gave mimer to one. He said, I'll choose this one. I'll give her mimer, and I'll give this one a get. So tzricha get. But chalitza, you still need a get what for the mimer, and he can't consummate the marriage because he gave a get to one. That shows he doesn't want him anymore. So kibush labana shubla yivne. So you need a get for the one that he gave mimer to, and you still need a chalitza. One chalitza to either one will help. Mimer bazu bowls. Let's say he made mimer on one, and he gave beer to the other one. Strichas Bezgit, and they both need to get because he did mimer to one, he can't marry the other one because there's already a connection. One, he can't build shnei batim, right? You have a bonus shnei batim, so he needs two gittin and a chalitza. Again, if he started with mimer bazu v'cholitz lazu, he gave mimer to one, he gave chalitza to the other one. Harishon and strichas get. The first one needs a get, but you already gave chalitza. Once you gave one chalitza to one, no matter how many wives, but one chalitza accomplishes everything. You know that gets rid of the zika. However, he had given mimer to the one, so that one needs a get. That's all if you started with mimer, and there's two wives, two co-wives. Now, let's say he started with get lazu, we get lazu. We gave each one a get. So we still need a chalitza. He can't marry either one now because he gave him each a get, right? So he showed he doesn't want him. But he still need chalitza. Get lazu, bal lazu. Let's say he gave a get to one, and now he was a bad boy, and he gave him to the other one. Strichas get b'chalitza. Now, this is a case, he said he did bia. Bia doesn't bia accomplish the whole thing minat Torah and he should be married to her? No, but it's a get psula, not after the get. Again, because he gave a get, but because he gave a get first, he's made the bia psula. So get lazu balazu. You need a get for who? For the one he gave bia to, because he did give her bia, right? But you still need chalitza, and you can't get away. It won't work anymore, right? So we get the nafka balas bia, or the bia psula. Since it's a bia psula, Rashi says a get alone won't finish it off. You still need chalitza because it was a bia psula. The bia that he gave was puzzle because he shouldn't have performed. He shouldn't have consummated it after he gave a get to one. Get lazu, mimer lazu. These are all the second group where you're starting with get. He gave a get to one and mimer to the other one. Okay, it's tzricha get. You need to get for the one he gave mimer to, and one chalitza because he's still having a chalitza. Get lazu b'cholitz lazu. If you gave a get to one and chalitza to the other one, then you're done. Einach chalitza klum. There's nothing else to do here, and nothing else would work. Once you've done chalitza, that's it. It's gone. It's just like once you've done a proper yibam, nothing else that you did afterwards. It would be usher if he does yibam to one co-wife, and then he does yibam to the other one, consummates it. That would be a terrible sin, either kares or lav on the tzara. But it's usher according to Bekiva. Our Mishnah would produce a mamzer. And if you did chalitza, the same thing. Once you did chalitza, it's forbidden. Anything else doesn't count. Okay, that's the second group. We started with mimer, we started with get. Now we start with chalitza. Chalatz v'chalatz. Let's say you have chalitza to both, right? Oh, chalatz v'asar b'mimer. Oh, nas and get ubal. In other words, if he started with chalitza, nothing comes afterwards. Chalatz, and then he did chalitza. The second chalitza doesn't do anything. In fact, she can marry a kohen, presumably. According to most unfortunate chalatz, the second one can marry a kohen. Oh, chalatz v'asar mimer. Or if you get chalitza and did mimer, nas and get ubal, anything you do after chalitza doesn't count because it's over. The zika is done, right? So it doesn't count. Nothing else counts. Mimer is only kedushin rabbanan. If he didn't really mean to do a kedushin to arai, so I'd say it's kedushin. Why shouldn't the kedushin help after you did chalitza? So the answer is because we're going like Rabbi Kiva that kedushin is not chal and chai ve'lavin, and this is a chalatz. So chalatz v'chalatz. If he gave chalitza to both, chalatz v'asam mimer. If he did chalatz and he did mimer afterwards, why wouldn't it work? Because it's a lav, and kedushin is not chal and lav. And even if he gave her get for sure, doesn't chalatz v'asam get doesn't do anything. The get wouldn't make her puzzle to go in, or he did bia afterwards. It wouldn't have an effect because kedushin is not chal because we're going like Rabbi Kiva. According to Rav Shimon Temani, if you gave chalitza and then you did mimer, presumably you would still need a get for the mimer. right? And if you gave B, if you did B afterwards, it's only because you need a get for that too, because it's like a kedushin, it's like you were Makadish or Midoraisa. If you gave B, you're not supposed to, because Kivin Shalabana Shuvla Yevna. Fine. So it's an Israel lav according to Rabban, but I'm just going according to Bikiba. And it could do, when it's an Israel lav, kedushin's not chal, so it doesn't do anything. Oh, if you started with Bia, then for sure it's and nothing else counts. Bal basamaimer, and doesn't get the chalatz. Einach chalitza klum, and Rashi explains it means the Gemara is going to say that einach bia klum. Once you started with chalitza or you started with bia, you did the right thing. Whatever you did afterwards doesn't count. Doesn't count. It doesn't mean. In fact, you might have a sin, right? If you did bia afterwards, you married afterwards, it's a sin, but it doesn't have an effect. It doesn't count. It doesn't. It's not lasting. That you don't need any follow-up procedure other than to bring karbanos, right? If you did it b'shogeg. Now this is true bein yavam echel shtei yavamas, whether it's one yavam with two co-eyes bein shnei yavam yavamachas, or there's two brothers with one yavama. If one brother gives bia, so then afterwards the other brother doesn't. Whatever he does doesn't count. If one brother does chalitza, whatever the brother doesn't count. Okay. Now we're going back to Mishnah, to the first part of the Mishnah Amalf, with one girl, one man, one yavam, one yavama. We're going to explain something now in different machloks here. Chalatz v'asamaimer doesn't get a ball. Let's say he gave her chalitza, and then he did maimer and he gave get a ball. Oh, ball v'asamaimer but doesn't get the chalatz. Einach chalitza klum. We said this before. This is all repetition from an aleph. Einach chalitza klum and einach rabia klum. Bein betchila bein be'emtza v'beso. The chalitza, even if it was like psula, you didn't do chalitza at the beginning. If you gave chalitza any time, then that ends the zika. Nothing comes afterwards. If you did bia properly, meaning that was the first thing you did, you gave her bia, you consummated the marriage the way the Torah prescribes you to do, then nothing else counts. But the emsa b'sof, if you did the bia after you did a get or if you did a get or a chalitza. In other words, let's say that he went and he did another act on a third co-wife, then it would count. It would do something. That's what the Tanakama says. Nechemia holds that bi or chalitza, whenever you did it, it's never possible. And whatever it does, nothing else comes afterwards. That is, if you went to a third co-wife and did something afterwards, it wouldn't count at all. Even if the bia or the chalitza was afterwards. The Tanakama also holds that any chalitza, whatever you did the chalitza, that ends the zika. Of course, if you did maimer on her, you need to get for that, but it ends the zika. Ein a chalitza klum in all cases. So the machlok between Nechemia and Tanakama, if the bia was not the first thing that you did, can something else come afterwards? And Rashi explains this. B'sof Amar, let's say achar maimer beget chalatz, achar maimer beget chalatz. Ein acharei klum b'chalitza gemuri. V'hara of it maimer lo boy get. You don't make it the chalitza gerish gemuri gam b'lav gomer. And we hold like Rabbi Kiva that it's this on a lav kedushin would not be tofus. But bia be'emtza could go and get lazu ball lazu. Let's say you gave a get first to one, then you to one to Leah, and then to Sarah you gave a bila. Because of also maimer on a third one, then you would be also on her probus because the maimer is like kedushin rabbanan according to the Tanakama. So if you did bia, if the bia wasn't first, it was second or third. Yeshach klum according to the Tanakama. The Chemi holds ein achar bia, ein achar chalitza klum, no matter when it was, whether the bia was at the beginning, the middle, or the end. Adkan says the Gemara, so there's a machlokes in the beginning of the Mishnah whether get achar get, maimer achar maimer, does the second get or the second maimer have any effect on the second woman or not? So there's a machlokes between Tanakama and Rabbanim, and we'll explain their shittas tomorrow. I will get echad biyavama or maimer echad biyavama mani. Where do you get this idea that a get or maimer helps at all? But the Torah doesn't say that. As I said, what does the Torah say? Yiv or yivam, which is consummating the marriage with bia. No talk about a ring or a star or anything like that. That's what the Torah says. And where the Torah doesn't prescribe a get for it, the Torah says give her chalitza to get rid of her. So I will get my time. Why did get and maimer work at all? My time. Amar Rabbanan get the Yavama Mahani. Why did the rabbi say that get helps? To say if you give her a get, you still need chalitza, but you can't marry her anymore. Mishum the Mahani Bama, since get normally works by 99.99999% of women of the world. When you want to end the marriage, end the union, you have to give her a get. And if you say get doesn't help for a Yavama at all, Amri get lo tzia, b'chalitza tzia. Both these things are to remove the wife from the union. Umid get lo mani. If a get doesn't help over here, chalitza lo mani. In other words, people know that how do you get rid of a wife? Everyone knows how do you give a wife? The Jews get rid of their wives with a get, right? How to go and get rid of their wives? You send her out. You send her out. I once had that child. Are the Catholics right that there's no divorce? The Catholics don't hold a divorce. The frum ones, I don't know. Today I don't know, but the frum ones didn't hold a divorce. Minat Torah though, can they get divorced? Maybe the Torah only prescribes getting for Jews, not for goyim. So I once researched that. It seems to be that the Mepharshim seem to say that a guy takes a wife and gets rid of her the same way. He takes her in a common law marriage. It's a common law that said he takes her in and treats her as his wife. That's his wife. He gets rid of her. He throws her out. He throws her out. There is a getting by, according to the Jewish halacha, goyim could be divorced, not like the Catholics. In any case, back to our issue over here. So people know that the Jews get rid of their wives by a get. So people say, listen, a get gets rid of wife and chalitza. If the get doesn't work, chalitza presumably doesn't work either. Chalitza nami mahani. But so people give chalitza, say it doesn't work anyway, and you could do bia afterwards, and that would be usher, right? If people say and it's bonus, that wouldn't work. So once you give a chalitza, according to Bekiva, certainly even according to Rabbanan, you're not supposed to. Once you give chalitza, even shalabana shuv lo yivna is a lav. According to Bekiva, kedushin when bichal. According to Shimon Atamani and the others, it would be chal, but still over in a lav. So midah get lo mahani. People think that chalitza also doesn't work. So the rabbi said, you know what? Get also works. You still need chalitza, but get works to say that's it. You can't marry her anymore. My time Rabbanan maimer b'ba mahani. Why did the Rabbanan say that there's such a thing as maimer? Mishum the mahani ba'alma, because normally kedushin works. That's how you marry somebody. The amr lo mahani. If you say maimer doesn't work, amri maimer liknos to be liknos. Maimer is the way you take in, is the way normally you marry somebody. And bia is the way you marry somebody. Either maimer, kedushin, maimer meaning with a star or with kesef. And bia is kona, right? That's the way normally it works. And since omid a maimer, if maimer doesn't work over here, bia also lamani. Maybe the bia doesn't work for the yavama either. And people, he'll do bia on one, let's say on Leah, and then do bia on Sartik. Doesn't help anyway, so he might do both. And then it'll be Asur, Havile Bonus Shnei Batim, which is an Isser Daraisa. Once you marry one, you can't marry the other one. So, in other words, the reason why Rabbanan say that get accomplishes something and Maimer accomplishes something, people say, if get doesn't work, Chalitza also doesn't work. It's meaningless, and I can marry her afterwards. Or if say that Kedushin and Maimer doesn't work, so B also doesn't work. Because normally, how does Kedushin work? How do you marry a woman in the street? We guess I get married. So the rabbis say it's not nice to do bia today, but technically we do it with kesef. You give her a ring or something of value. You could marry her with a star, or you can marry her with bia. If you say that maimer doesn't work here, the kedushin doesn't work, so people think bia won't work either, and then you'll become to marry both of them. Why did the Rabbanan say that a bia psula yesh achrolekum, like the Rabbanan sheet, not like Rav Nechemia, that a bia psula, meaning it followed a get, or it followed chalitza, or something, right? Or not, let's say it followed a get, that's a bia psula. Yesh achrolekum, that something else, it doesn't finish off, the bia doesn't finish off the zika, doesn't end the zika. Amri I bia achar get. If the bia is after a get, zera bia achar get, mishum bia achar chalitza. Because you say, listen, if you're going to say that a bia after a get does not work, right? People will say bia achar chalitza also doesn't have any effect. Bia psul yesh achar lekum, because if bia achar get, why do we say that bia achar get is only bia psula? Zera bia achar get, mishum bia achar chalitza. Because if you say that you'll say that you could do bia after chalitza also, and Rashi says bia achar chalitza. If it's bia achar chalitza, if you did a bia after there bia achar get, mishum bia achar chalitza. Rashi says the amr tisagila beget. If you say all you need is a get now, that and she's fully married, also a maimer midakani bia achar get, but bia gridasa. Amamayusi vasalam nevelach chila achar chalitza. You'll say after chalitza you could also have a bia. If you say that the bia accomplishes something, that you're fully married now, all you need is a get, and doesn't have chalitza, people will think, okay, that midakani bia achar get, the bia gridasa, it works fully. Amamayusi. And people say after chalitza also you'll give it. If bia achar get works fully, So biachar chalitza also works fully, and then you'd be over an isra lav of kivin shalabon shivla yivne. Biachar maimer, and if you did a bi after maimer, not on the same one. If you did bi after maimer, that's considered on the same woman. But let's say you did maimer on Leah and bia on Sarah. So you biachar maimer. Why did the Rabbanan say that bia doesn't come? Zera bia achar maimer mishum bia achar bia. Because if you say that bia achar maimer comes to all things, people say bia achar bia also helps. Then you're progressing. People will think bia achar bia. If bia achar maimer works, you gave maimer on Leah, and then you gave bia to Sarah, and you say, okay, that's a good marriage. So people will think that bia achar bia also works. If you gave bia on one, you consummated the marriage with Leah. You can consummate with Sarah too. So therefore, we say no, it's not a good marriage. It doesn't accomplish everything. My time Omer Rabbanan Hi chalitza psula and acharaklum. Why did the rabbi say chalitza psula? If you say bia psula yesh acharaklum, meaning if you did something on a third wife, it would accomplish something. It doesn't end. It doesn't finish off the zika because of xera. So why by chalitza don't you say that? My time Rabbanan chalitza psula. If you did a chalitza even after a get or after mimer, well, why do you say that that still finishes off the zika? I mean, my legs. What's xera? Nigzer chalitza achar get mishum chalitza chalitza. Say, listen, if you gave chalitza after a get, it shouldn't finish it off because you might say the same thing by chalitza after chalitza that it doesn't finish it off. So call county techlitzlaso, give it any chalitzas you want. Who cares? Nothing bad is going to come out if you gave one chalitza to give chalitza after many. If they come to the rabbis and ask, they'll say the other chalitzas don't mean anything and she still can marry a kohen. But you haven't heard any. You haven't heard it. No isser has been done. It's like giving a chalitza to somebody in the street or giving a get to somebody. It doesn't do anything. So therefore, the rabbi said there's no reason to be gozer. If the chalitza, why was the chalitza psula? Because it was after a get. So say a chalitza psula, a chalitza given after you gave a get to one, a chalitza to the other, a chalitza shouldn't end it off. What's the xera? Mishum chalitza, because you might give chalitza after. So give chalitza after chalitza. Who cares? V'tezel ligzer chalitza acher maimer, mishum chalitza acher v'tezel ligzer chalitza acher maimer. Oh, so let's say he gave maimer to Leah, and then he gave chalitza to Sarah. What do you want to say that it shouldn't end it off? Mishum chalitza achar bia, that if you did bia to one end chalitza to the other, it might come out a bad thing. So atu chalitza achar maimer milo boy get lemaimaro chalitza achar bia nami boy get be also. What's the problem? Everybody knows that if you marry somebody, you have to give a get. What's the problem with chalitza achar maimer? Say that it shouldn't end it off, shouldn't end off the zika. Why? Because chalitza achar bia, chalitza achar bia. The taste ligzer chalitza achar maimer mishum chalitza achar bia. So what if you did chalitza after achar bia? A chalitza achar bia, you still need a get for the bia, and the same thing you need a get for the maimer. So what's the problem when we say ein achar chalitza klum? No harm will come out because if you gave maimer to one and then chalitza to the other, you're still going to have to give a get. So when we say ein achar chalitza klum in terms of the zika, that the zika is gone, there's no reason to make if you gave chalitza, even a psula, even after a get or after maimer, no harm will be done by saying that the zika is over. That's what he says. My time or rabbanan high chalitza psula ein achar klum. Amri my ligzer chalitza achar get mishum chalitza achar chalitza call county techlitzlaso. What are you worried about? That you might come to give chalitza other chalitzas afterwards. So what? No harm will come. Ligzar chalitza achar maimer, that chalitza achar maimer should not complete it mishum chalitza achar bia, because chalitza achar bia after chalitza achar maimer, even the chalitza after maimer, you still need to get lemaimaro. So chalitza achar bia nami boy get lebi also. So Rashi says here chalitza psula achar get or achar maimer echlam di hara ovad maimer o get the shlishis lamahani. If you did a maimer or a get on a third co-wife, it wouldn't accomplish anything because what's your concern? You already goes with mishum chalitza lo tesel lenachlet shtei yavama zu achar zu, o shnei yavama liyavama achar zeh achar zeh, or two brothers, one yavama, one chalitza after another. Give a chalitza. Who do you care? Machbaslan if you give many chalitzas, or mishum chalitza achar bia. In other words, it goes there that chalitza achar maimer should not complete the zika because chalitza achar bia. You might think that if you give a chalitza after bia, that if you give bia, she goes out with chalitza without a get. Because even if you say maimer followed by chalitza, all you need is there's no more zika and nothing else counts to a third wife, to a third co-wife if you gave her anything. it still wouldn't have any effect because you still need to get for the mimer. We say you need to get mimer. That's what he says. The last line in Rashi on the page. We're talking about something you did afterwards. Let's say to a third co-wife. Get because it's all meaningless. Okay, this has been a little bit complicated, but that's how we understand it. This is all according to Bekiva. Actually, it would be different according to Shimon Tamani. That, for example, who holds that after chalitza it's only in Israel. So then, if it's only in Israel, it would take an effect. Kedushin would be chal even after chalitza. But according to Bekiva, it wouldn't be chal, and that's how this Mishnah makes more sense. Tomorrow's Gemara, we're going to explain the first part of the idea of Rav Gamliel. What's the difference in Gamliel? He says, "Ein gerach haget v'lo machamamer." The Rabbanan say, "Yesh gerach haget v'yesh machamamer." That we'll see in Mitzvah Shem tomorrow. All right, have a good day.
It seems as if the takana of mimer
Yes, can complicate it. Yeah. But you see, there's a reason why the rabbi said it, because he said, there's rabbi said, not only to be nice, but it accomplishes something, because people think if mimer doesn't do anything, people think Bia doesn't do anything. That's